So I just hit my boiling point. I didn't call anybody. I should have called somebody. I think I had a trouble trusting people, even the people at the meetings that said they were willing to be there, that I knew that there was no judgment. I still didn't trust them enough to call them for some reason, and that's my fault.
This is Rock Bottom with Ryan. No sugarcoating, no filters. The pain, the chaos, the truth. No bullshit. Just recovery.
Hey everyone, just wanted to thank all of my listeners, all the people that listen to my show on a regular basis, listen to every episode, enjoying the segments I do with Rachel, enjoying when I have different guests on every week, and I really appreciate the love and support. I'm about to hit 1 year of sobriety here soon, and in about 24 hours, and I'm excited. It makes me kind of emotional because I never thought in a million years I would make it to 1 year. Longest I ever made it before was 90 days, and that was before I had relapsed prior to being sober this long. And it's because I put in the work this time. I've had so many rock bottoms that I figured it was time to actually put in the work, change everything, like people say. I never thought I would change everything. I thought that, the last time I got sober, all I wanted to do was go to meetings and stop drinking, and that's not enough. And this time around, after my last rock bottom, as I got tired of digging, I decided to go to treatment, and that was the best decision I ever made. And although I offered to go to treatment and went there willingly, I was still reluctant to be there. I mean, I didn't really give in to the treatment until probably the second or third week, and I started to really embrace what I was doing in there. One of the difficult things they had me do was write a letter to my sister who passed away a few years ago, and that was really hard for me to cope with, and I never processed it. I never wanted to accept the fact that she had passed away, so writing a goodbye letter to her was not easy, but it helped me open up. And that was the start of something beautiful, something where I actually embraced what I was learning in recovery. All the exercises we did, all the things they had me do, writing down lists of people I resent and writing words to describe them, and then realizing that I was a lot of those things. And I came to a lot of realizations. So since I got out of treatment, I told myself I was going to do 90 and 90. And I did like 120 and 90, 120 meetings in 90 days. And I know AA isn't for everybody. It's not for some people, there's so many other methods that work for people, but it worked for me. I'll have to say, like, I didn't think it would, just because I heard, things about it, the way it was portrayed on the media and stuff. I didn't think it would work, but it did work for me. I walked in and I felt loved by a bunch of strangers that wanted the same thing I did, not to quote the meeting, but they wanted the same things as me. They wanted to stay sober. And I saw that some of them were collecting chips for 45 years, 50 years, 10 years, and I was just like, something's got to be working. So I did it. So the last year, looking back, of all the changes I've made so many drastic changes. The most important one, I think, is setting boundaries with people. I've been able to set boundaries with people that I thought could be triggering to me, that could maybe not have my best interest in mind all the time, and keep my distance in a way that I could maintain the relationship, but not let myself be affected by their behavior. And that includes people that, are long-term friends that are still using, sometimes people that, just bring negativity into my life. There are some friends that I completely cut off and don't talk to anymore. And I started to learn who my true friends were in this. And a lot of them, yeah, they're people I met at meetings. A lot of them are friends that actually became closer since I gotten sober because I didn't really let them in when I was drinking. I probably still had my guard up or I was drunk all the time. So I was able to really put myself out there for the right people and close myself off to the wrong people. And I thought that was a huge thing that helped me the last year. And I would say I haven't had any weak moments where I actually thought I was going to drink because I've had it in my head that no matter what happens, nothing's worth picking up a bottle again because I know what's going to happen if I pick up a bottle and I know how it starts. I mean, the routine is I will tell myself I'm only having a few drinks. I'll end up with 9 drinks. I'll wake up hungover and I'll immediately start drinking. And that is how it's always been when I start going on a bender, when I get in the wrong place. And it's been quite a while since I was able to drink controlled and have a few and be able to. I was able to do that for a few years prior to the last couple of years prior to getting sober, but I don't think I'm capable of that anymore. I know if I pick up a drink, I'm going all out. I'm going all out. I'm drinking myself to death, at least into jail or the hospital, if not death. And I've been near death 4 or 5 times now because of drinking. A couple of times due to injuries from drinking, and a couple of times because it was actually shutting my body down, and I was turning yellow, and I was losing hair, and those things have happened. And I've almost died from seizures due to withdrawal to the point where I could barely pick up the phone to have somebody take me to the hospital because my hands were shaking so hard and the DTs were so bad. I don't miss any of that. You know, alcohol drinking got exhausting. It got so exhausting when my entire day is based around when I can get my next bottle, whether I order it delivered, or I try to figure out a way to get to the store and stock up enough to the point where I'm not thinking, hey, I'm going to have fun with this. I just want to make sure I have enough so that I can not go through withdrawals and have a good enough buzz to make it back to the store. And that just would start this continuous cycle that never ended. And most of the people in my life wouldn't physically see me going through it because I would isolate so much. I would stay literally in my house, in my room, on my bed with my alcohol under my pillow, literally under my pillow. Usually it started with bottles, but when I got so bad that the shakes were so bad, I would have to buy bags of wine. I would take them out of the wine boxes and I would keep those under my pillow because that was the only thing I could safely hold up to my mouth without chipping my teeth, because the bottle would chip my teeth or I'd hit it into my teeth from shaking so hard. I mean, that's where I was at. And my dog would be sitting in my room just staring at me, whining, wondering why I'm not walking him anymore. Like I said, it just got exhausting. I couldn't handle it anymore. I mean, I think back to the last bender I had was by far the worst. And I had told myself before that had happened that I was never going to have a rock bottom worse than the one before, where I fell down some stairs the night I told myself I was going to quit drinking. Told myself I was going to quit one night after I'd been in the hospital twice in 2 weeks, been given detox treatment and given medication to, taper off the withdrawals. And I abused those and continued drinking and went back to the hospital and abused those and kept drinking. And one night I decided I'm done. I am going to quit tonight on my own. I'm not going to need treatment. I told myself I would never go to treatment, and this is the last drink I have. And I finished a box of wine and told myself I was going to start now. And that was at 4 a.m. when I was buzzed. I decided to go on a long run and I was running in the same route that I always run. But this time I was doing it so late or so early in the morning that I couldn't see anything. And for the couple weeks leading up to that, while I was on that last bender, I was getting this infection in my eye. It kept getting more red in this eye. And it was just, I thought it was just pink eye. I thought it was just bloodshot. I thought it was maybe just dust or an infection, something basic that would just heal itself. But it kept getting worse. And my vision started to get blurry. And that was something that was going on during that bender. But I was, of course, ignoring it, not saying, hey, I should go see an eye doctor. I was just like, it'll get better. And I'm drinking. So who gives a shit? So I was ignoring that. And that led up to that one night where I decided I'm going to quit drinking and I'll get my eye figured out later. And my vision was going blurry. So I went on this run in the morning at 4 a.m. and was going down this flight of stairs, probably like 12 steps of concrete stairs at this school nearby. And as I was about to go down the top flight, I ended up tripping and going face first down the stairs and tumbled all the way down and got up disoriented, felt my face. I saw a little bit of blood and I just thought, oh, okay, well, it's just a little scratched up or something. Went home and I got in my bed and laid down, tried to go to sleep for a while and opened my eyes and I noticed I was wearing a white shirt and there was a bunch of blood on my shirt. So I'm like, oh shit, I should probably look at this. And I went and looked in the mirror and my face was unrecognizable. It was covered in blood. My lip was hanging right here. It was hanging down. My upper lip was almost a hole through it. It looked like my teeth had bitten a hole through it. My two front teeth were completely chipped off. Blood everywhere. Not to mention, my beard was unshaven, unkept. My hair was messy. My right eye, for some reason, I hadn't looked in the mirror in so long, but it was completely purple. And finally, I mustered up the courage to call an ambulance. And an ambulance came and took me to the hospital and started stitching me up. And they said, this is probably too much for our hospital. They had to airlift me to a nearby city with a bigger, better hospital. And they airlifted me by helicopter. And I wanted to be on a helicopter my entire life. That was my first experience being in a helicopter. And I felt so low being on that helicopter, having people over me. And I'm just like, how did I do this to myself again? I'm not even just hurting myself at this point. I'm hurting everybody in my life that is probably going to give up on me at some point. My father, my mother, my sister who passed away, my family, I think they probably had enough of this shit. I was thinking to myself, God, if you give me another chance and I heal and I can look the same and feel the same again, I won't let you down again. So I went to the hospital and I healed up for a week. And my mother was the only person who came to visit. And even when she came to visit, she didn't even recognize me when she walked past my hospital room because she thought it was somebody else. So she walked past and went to another room. And then somebody had to bring her back to my room saying, no, that's Ryan. That's your son. That's how bad I looked. I'll post a picture up on this episode so you can see what I looked like, but it was pretty gross. And I can't believe I even healed up. I can't believe I look even semi-normal now because I looked terrible. I got my teeth fixed. The eye doctor had came into the hospital and said that I was probably going to lose my eye. We'd probably have eye removal. That was the conclusion he came to. And I got a second opinion and he said, we'll try to save it. So he put me on 7 different eye medications and antibiotics that I drip into my eye 4 times a day for months. And even until this day, I'm still taking medication to keep trying to repair it. And I still can't see out of it that well, but it looks fairly normal, as you can tell. And so I'm blessed. I got out of that hospital. I told myself I was going to go to meetings. I had a family friend take me to my first meeting, which I was reluctant to go to, but I was willing to go to. And people were extremely nice. My face was beat up. I still felt like I was kind of going through withdrawal symptoms, anxiety, not really ready to, I definitely wanted to drink at that point, but I knew it was too obvious. If I went out and drank again, people would definitely give up on me after taking that fall. I think my higher power or whatever was telling me when I fell that, no, you're really going to get help this time. It was like some kind of explanation point on quitting drinking. So I went to meeting, decided to keep going to meetings, and I stayed sober for those 3 months, 90 days almost. I wasn't really putting in the work besides not drinking. I was just going to those meetings and not consuming alcohol, but I wasn't changing anything else. I didn't change the people I talked to. I didn't change a lot of my surroundings. I mean, I wasn't going to bars that often or anything like that. I wasn't partying or anything because you don't party without alcohol or drugs. So I was just proud of the fact, hey, I go to a meeting every now and again and I don't drink. So that's all I need to do. So come day 90 or around that time, I actually know it wasn't day 90. I was short by like 8 days, but I decided to go into this stash that I had had the entire time in this travel bag, and I had bought this couple of cans of alcohol and a bottle of wine when I had been at a hotel about literally a month prior, for a wedding, and I had bought it just to have on hand as a crutch to know that, hey, I have alcohol in case I get anxiety at this wedding. And I never drank it, so I kept it. And I decided I was starting to get anxiety in these meetings for like a couple of weeks, and I kept telling myself, "Don't drink, don't drink, don't drink." Like maybe I should wait for the medication to start working, or I was taking naltrexone and all this stuff for anti-cravings. I was like, but I was starting to have this like sense of panic. I don't know what was wrong with me, but my mind was racing all the time. Like, even when I was in meetings, I was starting to not want to talk anymore. So I just hit my boiling point. I didn't call anybody. I should have called somebody. I think I had a trouble trusting people, even the people at the meetings that said they were willing to be there, that I knew that there was no judgment. I still didn't trust them enough to call them for some reason. And that's my fault. To this day, I wish I had, because I know they're amazing, incredible people that I have met there and that I'm developed friendships with. And I didn't make that call. I wish I had, because I drank that. I told myself I was only going to have, I would do this thing where I took a chug of a drink and I would count a certain amount of chugs. I would do like 3 gulps. So I just told myself I'd have 3 gulps of wine. And I did 3 gulps. Within minutes, it didn't make the difference I wanted it to. I chugged the entire thing. Gave me sort of a buzz, and I went to a meeting. And even during that meeting, I felt complete guilt. And I'm like, I already fucked this up. I drank. Like, I have to restart my time anyways. So I'm like, I can go back and I can finish the night off and drink more, because I already fucked up the day. I fucked up my sobriety. I'm going to have to come in and confess to it. So I'll drink more. So I drank more that night, finished those 2 cans, decided when I went to the store, I'm just going to buy one of those like bottle sized juice boxes of wine. Finished that night, felt the buzz, didn't tell anybody, felt nothing but guilt. I wasn't even enjoying myself. And I drank it that night, woke up the next morning, anxiety immediately. Told myself, all right, well, I'll just go get a 24-ounce can and hair the dog that bit me, and then stop drinking after that, go to the meeting, tell them, hey, I'm in my first 24 hours of sobriety again, and go back to being sober. Instead, I bought a box of wine, bought a 6-pack. So that's equivalent to like, probably 40 drinks total. And that led to being in my room for the next month, a month long. Hardly left my room, ordered alcohol on delivery. I was flattening boxes of wine. The stack was about this tall of flattened boxes of wine, about 2 feet tall. And I was going through 15 to 20 something drinks a day, maybe more. I wasn't even counting, because I was just drinking straight from the bag. I mean, it doesn't get any lower than that when you hold up a bag and just open the nozzle, twist that little nozzle, and just pour wine into myself until I would feel slightly better. But for some reason, that whole bender I was on, I'd never got better. I never started feeling better. I kept getting worse. I would still get the shakes every day. Couldn't text anybody because my fingers weren't operating. My motor skills were off. It was a depressing bender. It wasn't like the other times where I actually was able to maybe have a little fun with it, maybe at least make phone calls to my friends and like laugh or anything. Like, this time it was just pure depression. I felt so much failure and guilt that I had let everyone down again. And there were so many people cheering me on during my sober time. There were so many people cheering me on, rooting for me, that I just failed them, and I had to admit it. So it got to the point where, after being in my room in a month, I finally gave in, and that's when I went to rehab. And that's the last time I went to the hospital, and then I didn't drink after that. And that was September 28th of 2024. And since then, I've put in the work. I've worked really hard. It wasn't always easy because I've had to feel feelings. I haven't cried, which is kind of sucks, because I kind of wish I'd been more emotional about things, because there are things that I've wanted to process and break down, but for some reason, I think I've just been a little neutral on a lot of stuff. But so I think there's still stuff I'm working on, and it's been a year, which is a long time, but still it's not long. And, I want to say, like, hey, it gets better, because it does get better. This past year, things have gotten better. The first 6 months, I realized, things still did stress me out, but I started to learn that you can't, cry over spilled milk, or whatever the term is. Like, I started to realize I don't need to react to things I can't control. If somebody's pissed off and their day's ruined, my day doesn't have to be ruined. I don't have to let anybody ruin my day. And a good friend of mine, Frank, shout out to Frank, a good friend of mine always told me, just don't let anybody ruin your day but you. And even you can control that. Control what you can control. And I took that to heart. I'm like, shit, you're right. I don't have to let anybody's bad mood ruin my day. I don't have to let something somebody says to me because they don't like something I do. I already did it. Like, I can apologize if I'm sincerely sorry, or I can say, hey, I just move on with my day, and I've learned that, and it's made life so much easier. And also learning to say the word no to people, and no in general, to not do anything I don't want to do, because who knows, it could be triggering things that I don't want to do, and I still do them anyways. And maybe that would lead to relapse. So I started to just say no when I don't feel like doing anything, or going into a situation I'm not comfortable with. I mean, I didn't go into social situations in the past year until I felt 100% comfortable. And I'm so glad I did that, because the times I have gone into social situations, when I was ready, I was proud that I waited, because I was able to control the situation. I had an escape plan. I had my mind in the right place. I had the coping mechanisms to deal with those things. If I'm around people drinking, I know, hey, if they're annoying me, I just walk away. I don't have to deal with it. Or, but it doesn't really bother me being around people drinking anymore. I'm not around it all the time. So when I am, it's like, okay, well, I get to see how stupid I used to act, And most of the people that I keep in my life now are people that respect my sobriety. They're not, they might go out of their way to not drink when I'm around me, which I appreciate. But, I want people to live their own life too. But in the past year, my relationship with my father has gotten so much better. I remember calling him in treatment, and I expected him to be upset with me, because I had disappeared for that month that I had relapsed. And that was my routine, disappearing when I relapsed. I would put my phone on Do Not Disturb, and I'd get on the phone and scroll through videos, but I wouldn't talk to anybody. And that's when it's pretty obvious. That's basically like saying, hey, I'm Ryan, I'm drunk again. And when I called my dad from rehab, I expected him to really come down on me for some reason, just because it was just like, again. But he actually ended up being pretty proud that I had made the extra step to go to treatment, because it's what I needed. Nothing else had ever worked. I mean, we've been going through this for 17 years. I mean, and none of the other things I tried worked. So he was happy I took the extra mile, and he was extremely supportive. And he and I, having kind of a rocky relationship off and on throughout my life, we have the best relationship I could ever imagine right now. I feel like I could call him for anything, for love and support and anything. And my stepmother is an extremely big support system. That's his wife. And she's an incredible woman, and has been there for me and seen me at my worst multiple times, and nursed me back to health multiple times when she could have told me to fuck off, and she didn't. To this day, every time I go visit them, she opens the door with a smile, happy to see me. And that's something you can't replace. That's something I really appreciate from her, that she loved her husband's son, even though he was a disaster a lot of the time, a lot of the time she's known me. And she still looks at me with, that she's proud of me in her eyes. And when he sees me, he's proud. And that's huge for me. Those relationships are huge for me. I never felt good about myself when I was destroying those relationships with my drug and alcohol use. So retaining those relationships was huge. And having my dad in my life is huge. And knowing that I can call him any minute of the day and get his advice, love, support for anything is huge. Even if it's criticism I can't handle or don't think I can handle, I'm glad I feel comfortable enough that I can ask him or talk to him about it, even if it's something I don't want to hear, even if it's unsolicited advice. I know I have him in my life, and that is so important to me because I love him to death. And he's a big reason that this year has felt so good, uh, and that and a big reason, his encouragement has helped me um, accomplish what I have. I have another person in my life over in Seattle who's been extremely loving, encouraging, and pushing me as well. And I've got another person over here in town that's been extremely loving, encouraging, and pushing me. And I've got friends over here that have been loving and supportive and pushing me. And I have all the right people around me. My mother and I, we used to drink together, and we've always gotten along. We've always had a great relationship. Maybe sometimes it wasn't always the healthiest when it came to boundaries, when it came to drinking, when I would see her and come to her house or visit, the first thing we'd do is be like, do you want a beer? Do you want a shot? And that's cool because I would be drinking at the time and I would love that. I would love a shot, thanks, mom. And that's not our relationship anymore. When I decided to get sober the first time, before I had relapsed this last time, she actually came to some meetings with me, and she had come to some meetings with me and decided that she wanted to be a part of AA as well and get sober as well because it had affected her health and mind for the longest time since I've known her. I grew up in technically an alcoholic household with her because she drank a lot, but she was always a loving mother. She was never mean to me, never abusive. She was always very good to me, no matter what she was going through. I mean, she didn't bring me into the healthiest situations all the time. We moved around a lot. We had our dysfunctions, but I always loved her, and I know she always loved me, and she always loved me unconditionally. Honestly, I could do no wrong. I could go out and commit a bunch of crimes, and she'd probably tell people I didn't do it, So she's always had my back, and I appreciate that about her. But the beautiful thing is that she decided to get sober when I did too the first time, and she stayed sober. She didn't relapse like I did. She kept going to meetings. She kept maintaining relationships with people. She put in the work and she took it seriously. And now she chairs meetings with me and we chair meetings together, mother and son. And that makes me happy as hell because for the first time in our lives, we have a legitimately healthy mother-son relationship. We still act like we're friends. We still joke around like buddies, and I can tell her anything. We don't have boundaries in those sense. She's a really fun mom, and I love her to death. But we have a healthy, sober mother-son relationship. I never thought that would be a possibility. For the rest of our lives, maybe one of us would be drinking, or maybe one of us would. I thought I was going to die young, and here I am, and here she is, and she's healthier than ever. At knock on wood, at age 70, and here I am at 38, planning to stay sober the rest of my life. So those relationships are good. I have great relationships with my parents at the same time for the first time in my life, and I appreciate both of them for different reasons. And they've both been so supportive and encouraging in this last year and had my back. And I've had the right relationships with friends and everyone and kept the right people around me that have pushed me to make it this far, and it's made it easy. I can't say that I've struggled a lot in the last year. I feel like the more sober I got, the easier things came. That's why, after maybe 8, 9 months of sobriety, I was on a road trip and was listening to a podcast about people going through trauma in relationships and stuff like that. And I was like, I've been so passionate about my recovery. I want to start a podcast that talks to people about their recoveries. And so I started this podcast just with the intention of interviewing people and hearing about, hey, how did you come back from what was your rock bottom and how did you come back from it? And like, what state of mind would you're in? It was going to be kind of dark, not dark, but like honest and kind of hard truths about what we go through when we're at our lowest points, like I was many, many times. And I feel like sometimes it's good for people to open up about it and talk about those times, because a lot of it was probably when we were alone and we probably hadn't told people what the hell we were going through when we were alone in those rooms. Like when I had relapsed last, I was in my room and I was crying a lot into a pillow, shaking, drinking. I was hallucinating. I thought my family was outside my bedroom for weeks. For the last 2 weeks, I was drinking. I thought they were outside of my room talking about me when there was nobody actually there. And that just shows like where my mind was. It was all over the place. I was going through withdrawal, DTs. No matter how much I drank, I could never feel right. And if I drank enough, I would just pass out and then I'd wake up again and do the exact same thing. And it was just a very dark period. So this podcast, I wanted people to be able to share what they went through, not only as a reminder for them and the pain and suffering they were going through that they may have not told anybody, but also remind other people who are drinking what it could lead to, or what, if you're trying to stay sober, get sober, stay sober, what the repercussions are, because sometimes we forget how bad it really gets. If I ever get that thought in my mind, I could go have some beers and I could quit after that. I have to remind myself I've never been able to do that. Those beers will lead to wine. That wine will lead to hard alcohol. That hard alcohol will lead to drinking in the morning, drinking all day, all the isolation, the confusion, the hallucinations, the no sleep, the passing out, the falling, the stumbling, the injuries, the not being able to put my contacts in because my hands are shaking, not being able to aim when going to the bathroom because my hands are shaking, hardly being able to get in the shower if I even showered once or twice a week. Just all the hell that comes with it. It's just not worth it. So I thought this podcast would be just a reminder of it. And it's just a way to like have fun and have it just be like a hobby for me. But I never envisioned how much of a difference it's making in my life. But I hope it's making a difference in other people's lives, because based on a lot of the feedback I'm getting from not just family and friends, but just people who have watched my show, they've told me like, how great some of the episodes are and how powerful they've been and how emotional some of the episodes have been. And it's just makes me so happy that I've been able to provide a platform for people to be open and talk about some of these difficult things, but also have some fun doing it. That's not all about just the dark periods. It's not all about rock bottom and then how bad it was. It's about how we can look back at some of these things and kind of laugh now, and because some of it we can laugh at because we're so far along into our sobriety and we know how far we've come, that we can look back at what shaped us to get here, and I know that I don't regret anything that I've gone through. I don't regret anything. I am happy that I relapsed as many times as I did. I'm happy that I had a problem with cocaine. I'm happy that I went through all that, because it shaped me into who I am now. I wouldn't be where I am at now, at the happiest point in my life, hitting 1 year of sobriety, where I'm clear-headed, I'm content, life feels easier. I feel like the right things are coming to me. I feel like I have a great relationship with everybody that's important to me. I feel like it's been a great year, and I didn't think this podcast would become, semi-popular. It's not the biggest podcast on the internet but I know the people that are watching it are people that appreciate it and understand the importance of recovery. And the people watching it can probably relate to a lot of the things. And some people that maybe never had problems with drugs and alcohol still, get something out of it. Maybe it helps them learn more about what a family member or a friend or a significant other is going through with their addictions, or a son or a mother or a father, or, a daughter, like anyone. I want the show to appeal to a lot of people that just want to understand recovery. And it's not all darkness. It's not all rock bottoms. There's a lot of things that make rock bottom your foundation to build on, and I'm interviewing all these people with so many cool stories, like becoming life coaches, counselors, owning their successful businesses, drink companies, non-alcoholic beverage companies, just so many different careers that people have gone into, so many different paths they've gone into. Some people stayed in the same careers and they're just happier than all hell just being sober. And I don't care, because I welcome every story, regardless of how, significant you may think it is. It is significant because your story matters. And every time I interview somebody, I feel slightly better afterwards, because I heard another story, I heard another point of view, another perspective, because a lot of us, we're all fighting the same battle, but our stories are all different. And we all have something unique about our story. We've all suffered through traumas when we were kids. Most of us, some of us have suffered just traumas in relationships. Some of the people drank just to drink and say that their lives were pretty average, and like just basic things led them to drink. Like their lives were just like, they just drank just to drink. It wasn't because of anything bad going on. It wasn't because they were trying to numb anything. They just liked to drink. And that's okay, because that gives me a whole nother view that anybody can be an alcoholic. Anybody can be a drug addict. You don't have to have childhood trauma. You don't have to just go hang out with the wrong people. I mean, anybody can get their hands on alcohol or drugs for whatever reason they want. And that's what I want the show to be about, is showing that nobody's alone. Nobody's alone. Not in recovery. Nobody's alone, because we've all been through it, regardless of why, regardless of how. We've all been through it, and we all have a unique story behind it, though. And I love people sharing on the show. I'm really grateful for I'm really grateful for my co-host Rachel, who I have on the show pretty often, who helps me a lot with the show. Grateful she reached out. And I didn't think I even wanted a co-host at first, but we did a few episodes, and all of a sudden I'm like, yeah, I want her to be a part of the show, because she's becoming a close friend of mine and somebody I feel like I can trust. And that's the beauty of recovery and the networking and even social media. I used to hate social media, and now I'm meeting some of the greatest people online, met because of this show. And I talk to them on a daily basis. And Rachel's one of the people I talk to every day, because we work on the podcast together, and she's, I could tell her anything now. And it's just really nice to be able to meet people like that. And there are other people, they know who they are, who I talk to on a regular basis, and it brightens my day. And, I even check up on some of the people that were newly sober who were on my show, a couple of people that were, a couple months in, and I just asked them, hey, happy 90 days or happy 4 months or whatever, because I genuinely care about every guest on this show. I care about what this show, how it appeals to people. It's not about making it some famous show and becoming popular, like, making a bunch of money or anything like that. It's not about that. It's, if I ever made money, I would be donating to mental health awareness. So it's not about that. It gives me a beautiful outlet to not only share my story, but get other people to share theirs. And I know I'm probably rambling, but for my 1 year, I wanted you all to know just more about me and know me for me without a guest on the show, and talk about kind of like what the show's doing for me. But I'm meeting great people. I'm hearing great stories. Every story is significant, regardless if it has any tragedy or death or suicide attempts or hospital or jail visits. I've had all of those. It's just every story matters. Every person matters in recovery. And I care about everybody out there. The people I interviewed do get a place in my heart because they're a part of my show and I care about the show. I eat, sleep, and breathe the show. I wake up thinking, how can I make the show better every day? But I'm not doing it in a way where I'm like being hard on myself, thinking my show should be more popular or I should go deeper into this or that. I'm just thinking, I just want to see, I want to put it out there and see what people want, what people like, try different things, have fun with it. I'm going to do different segments, rapid fire recovery I'll be doing with a guest on a regular basis. I'll be doing more episodes with Rachel and we'll have different segments. And she has a character called Ratchet Rachel, who I think is hilarious. And it's who she used to be when she was drunk. My nickname was Everyday RPK because people used to see me with a beer all the time and say it's Everyday RPK, like my initials. And, we all got our story and I certainly have mine. I've been to jail 7 times, no felonies on my record, but I've been to jail and I've been to hospitals about the exact same amount of times due to alcohol. So that's 14 times where I should be locked up or dead, basically. And I'm so glad that I don't have to worry about those things anymore. It's nice to be able to get in my car knowing I'm driving with a valid license, driving sober. I used to drink and drive all the frickin' time, and I'm not proud of it. Having a road beer or a spiked Gatorade was not unusual. Sometimes I'd be shameless and be chugging directly from a boxed wine or a bottle. Sometimes I'd keep it in my car to the point where whoever I was around, it was a perfect way to hide it, was to make excuses to go to my car to drink. So it's like all that stuff gets exhausting. And those are all things that I was going to use this show to kind of get people to talk about so they know they're not alone, because when you're deep into your addiction, you do feel like you don't have anyone. Even if people are telling you they're there for you, in your mind, you feel like you're still alone. You don't care if you die for the most part. I mean, a lot of us, we're passively suicidal where we're like, we're not going to grab a gun and pull the trigger, but we don't care if we die. We're in that dark of a place. And I have been there many times, but especially the last couple of times I was drinking. And, I don't want anybody out there to lose hope and not believe in themselves. And everybody out there needs to know how precious their lives are and how much they do matter and how important they are to this world, and that they do have people that care about them. And whether it's their families, their friends, their significant others, their loved ones, their children, their mothers, their fathers, whoever it is, even if it's not those people, the people on here in this network of people in recovery, you have resources, you got people. I mean, if I didn't have my family and friends, I still feel like I'd have a million people I could reach out to. Thank God for the internet. Thank God for the fact that we can network and meet each other. Because I mean, there's people out there with clothing brands for sobriety. There's counselors everywhere. There's life coaches, sober coaches. There's everything out there. There's so many people out there that will help you, not just because it's their jobs, but because they want you to have what they have, if not better. They want the best for you. And you got to trust that. It's hard to do, but when you realize you can trust that, you can have all the success in the world in recovery. And that's what I did. When I went to treatment, first and stopped drinking, first thing I did was say, I'm going to trust people. I'm going to open up finally. I'm going to take this mask off my head, and I'm going to take this guard down, this shield that I've been holding up my entire life, and these sunglasses I've been wearing so nobody could see what I was feeling. I took it all off. And I want the world to see it now. There's no more hiding. And for the first time in my life, I truly love myself. And I never thought in a million years I'd ever love myself. I've been a really insecure person. I've been a very hard on myself, self-hate, a lot of self-hate, a lot of negative self-talk. I never believed I could be successful at anything because I feel like I would only get halfway there and either be satisfied or give up or be drinking too much to make it any further. And being sober for 1 year has shown me that I can love myself and I can accomplish anything I put my mind to if I just trust in myself and trust in the process and have patience and realize that some things take more steps than others. Some things take baby steps. Some things you can get to quicker than others. And failure is okay because, success is based on being able to fail a million times until you get there. I can't remember the quote, but nobody's successful has ever not failed. You got to fail in order to learn how to be successful. And I failed many times and I'm still not, I wouldn't consider myself successful by any means, but as far as loving myself and enjoying my life right now and being the best version of myself right now, I feel like I am successful there. And that's what matters. And I know that the people that matter in my life love who I am right now and they're proud of me. And that's success to me. And that's all the success and satisfaction I need, and that makes me want to be sober another 24 hours because I want to see how much further I can take this, how much further I can go. I want to see how many more people I can meet, not even just in person, but through this podcast, how many more guests I can have on the show that will teach me one more thing about myself and about them. And every guest I have on, I learn one more thing and it's just amazing. And some of the feedback I get about the episodes just makes me feel like I'm doing something good here. Like I'm doing something I'm truly proud of and I'm doing it sober. And that's the part that blows my freaking mind sometimes is that I'm doing all this sober and I don't wake up hungover anymore. I'm not hiding in a bottle anymore. And I can actually say I'm like proud of myself for the first time ever. Like I'm genuinely proud of myself. And I feel like if my little sister were here today, I swear to God, she'd be really happy. But I feel like she's up in heaven right now looking over me and laughing with me and saying like, brother, you made it. You did it. Like you're doing it. Just keep going. I know she'd be so proud of me and I miss her so damn much, but I wish she could be here with me to enjoy this life with me. But I know there's a heaven up there and I believe she's there. So I'm so proud of myself. I never thought I'd make it a year. A year sounded like such a long time a year ago. And I'm so happy to not be hungover in the morning. I'm so happy I can go into every situation not requiring a drink. I'm so happy I can call my dad without feeling like I have to lie about something or be guilty about something. I feel great having my mom look at me like she's happy to see me happy. She's proud, she's, I'm so happy just to love myself, to actually love myself. And I want to break down right now and I can't, but this is the closest I've gotten. So it's getting somewhere with that, but it's been a good year, a year that I remember everything. I processed everything. I've felt everything. I've had obstacles that would have debilitated or, completely ripped me out from under my legs a year ago. And I can just take this obstacle, lift my foot up and step right over it now and not let it phase me. And if it does phase me, I at least know that I have the tools to overcome it now. And I would have never been able to overcome these things if I wasn't sober. And if I didn't have the right people in my life, and if I didn't have the right tools, and I didn't have the right mindset. Because when I got sober, I did change everything, how I looked at everything. And it wasn't an overnight process. It was something that really took months and months. And I really didn't start feeling really, really good. It's probably different for everybody, but I didn't start feeling really, really good, confident, comfortable in my own skin, comfortable even to start a podcast until a couple of months ago when I started the podcast. That's when I really started feeling like myself, but I didn't just start feeling like myself. I started feeling like better than I did before I even started drinking, because I was pretty depressed and anxious before I even started drinking. And that's why I drank. And that's why it led to years and years of alcoholism. So even when I was this fun party guy, I was still just masking this really insecure, broken kid. And now that I've been sober a year at age 38, I love myself so much more than I ever thought I would. I love who I am. I love the kind of person I am now and how I treat people and how I take their feelings into consideration and how I'm honest, how I can be honest about everything. I never realized how powerful it was to be honest and like what a difference it makes when you don't lie or you don't sugarcoat things. You don't, you don't bend the truth at all, not even white lies. Like it's just being straight up with myself now has helped a lot, and being straight up with other people, and that includes the whole saying no. That includes just saying it like it is and telling how you feel. I'm still working on the opening up about my feelings part. It's quite a bit. I think I have a lot of work to do there. Doing this recording right now is probably a step in the right direction. But the people I'm meeting through this are teaching me in a lot of ways more than they even know about opening up. People that have opened up on my show about some really difficult things have made it so I can open up. I would have never opened up about sexual trauma that I had suffered as a child if it wasn't for Avery in a previous episode opening up about it. And that was huge. I didn't think I would. I thought there was some things I'm taking to the grave, and there's still some things that I will talk about in other episodes that I thought I'd take to the grave. But everyone here is teaching me that it's okay, that everything's okay, regardless of what we went through, that we couldn't control, regardless of what we did, whether we could control it or not, whether it's crimes we committed, things we did, people we hurt. It's okay, We can make amends with people. Some we can't, We can deal with resentments. Some easier than others, but it's all possible when you're sober. And it's not an overnight process. It does take time. I'm going to be working on this process until the day I die. It's an everyday full-time job, 24/7. Like Kobe is what I usually say. So I'm a sports fan, but it's an everyday process. And I learned that for the people out there that are newly sober, it does get easier. It really does. Sometimes it might seem easy at first, then it gets difficult, but you start to learn the longer time goes by how great sobriety is, and you start to see the relationships get easier. You start to get your days get easier. You start to just realize, oh, I'm reliable now. I do this now. I have these hobbies now. I'm productive now. you can accomplish so much. And this podcast is it's not even, I wouldn't even call it an escape or, an outlet for me. It's something I'm passionate about. And I realize that maybe I'm helping people, but it's helping me too every day. So I'm grateful for everybody that listens. I'm grateful for everybody that is on this journey with me, and everybody who's supportive of me, and everybody who's been there with me along the way, and all the new people that I'm going to meet in the future. I'm excited. I'm excited to meet you and see what kind of impact you have on my life, because everybody's having an impact on my life. And I'm grateful for everything. I love myself. I love sobriety. I love recovery. I'm passionate about it. I'm not going to preach AA. It works for me. If it doesn't work for you, whatever works for you, whatever keeps you sober and makes you happy and content and happy in life, that's all that I care about. That's all that should matter. Even if you don't have a program, whatever makes you happy, whatever gets you out of whatever hole you were in addiction, alcoholism, anything, just want everybody to be happy. But in the meantime, I'm going to keep, doing the best I can with this show, and I'm going to put a lot of time into it. I'm not going to stop making episodes. I'm going to make this my full-time job, and I don't even look at it as a job because I enjoy it too much to even call it a job. But some people say that if you enjoy what you do, you never work a day in your life. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this podcast, and I'm going to put my heart and soul into it. And I'm not going to worry about anything, because there's another quote that says, worrying is like paying on a debt that may never come due. So why worry? So I'm just going to take it another 24. And I just want to thank everybody for listening to me tell a little bit about my story of the last year. For those who didn't skip in the first half hour because I bored you, thank you for listening, and thank you for supporting the podcast. And thank you for everybody who's been on my show. And thank you for everybody who I've built friendships with, relationships with, that I talk to. None of this is possible without you. So thank you. And I'm proud to say I'm going to be 1 year sober. So thank you all. Grateful, forever grateful.
Rock Bottom with Ryan. No bullshit, just recovery.